afternoon. Welcome to this, I guess today, what is today? August 26th meeting of the Finance Committee of the City of GNV City Commission. All right, Madam Clerk.
So moved.
Second.
All right. It's been printed, distributed. No other further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chair, we have the approval of the minutes. The Finance Committee approves the minutes from May 27, 2026 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any other discussion about those minutes from May 27th? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chair, we're on to 2026-564, update on GRU city finance transactions as of June 30th, 2026. The Finance Committee receives a report from the Department of Financial Services regarding fiscal year 2026 financial transaction balances between the city and GRU as of June 30th, 2026.
Great, thank you. Mr. Nguyen.
Good afternoon. For the record, Dennis Nguyen, Director of Financial Services, and I'm here for another routine update on transactions between the city and GRU. To start us off, going over the General Services Contribution, or GSC, we've received $4.9 million out of this budgeted $7.2 million. This 4.9 million is net of streetlights and attorney fees. Attorney fees have climbed up to $491,000, and streetlights are now at $960,000 for this fiscal year. So the amount we see here for 4.9 is that net number. I think this is with the attorney fees that is in excess of what we originally adopted to project for attorney fees. So we are looking like it's going to be short.
So it'll be short the 7.2 million, but 4.9, of course, is just for the fiscal year.
Correct. Yes.
About 9 months. Yeah.
So we're not going to get 7.2 million for the fiscal year.
How much have we lost? You gave a quote of 1.5 million previously, I think, for attorneys' fees, and now where are we at in?
Life to date,
Yeah, to date.
attorney fees were at 1.2 million, and most recently in the past month we got hit with a $56,000 bill, which isn't reflected here because it was reflected in July.
Okay. All right. So we're still at about 1.2.
Yes.
At the moment. Okay. Great. Thank you.
And this is only what GRU charges back to general government.
Okay. Right. So this is just what they have chosen to allocate as the reduction based on the ordinance, based on the motion they made previously.
Correct.
So it's possible there could be more legal fees, but that's just not charged to general government. at the
Right.
time, is what you're saying. Okay, great. Thank you.
So next we have indirect cost. We are on track with this amount. So we've received 702,000 of the 937,000 that we budgeted. This is on schedule. They're paying monthly. There have been no changes in their indirect cost as originally budgeted. Starting in May, we did transition payroll services and HR services completely to GRU, so they are handling that on their own, but they are still providing the budgeted amount of the indirect cost through the rest of the fiscal year. As an update to fiscal year 27, we did complete the indirect cost study, or the FCAP for 2027, but we had been given notice that we will only be receiving 359,000. So this is less payroll services and HR services that they're going to be paying for in fiscal year 27.
So just to be clear, we're still doing the full cost allocation plan study as like how we did previously, to have kind of a third-party review of our services that we're providing GRU and GRU is providing us, right?
Correct.
And so what you're saying is that they're only going to be providing 359,000, or how much lower?
It's about half of what we were getting in 2026.
Okay.
But the FCAP that was prepared for fiscal year 2027 projected more like 2.4 million, because that had all in costs, payroll, Office of Equity or Inclusion, all of our offices included. So
Because that's on our audited financial statements.
Yes.
From 2 years ago. Okay. All right. Thank you.
next, we have utility taxes. We're on trend for utility taxes. They're still remitting the utility taxes monthly. So I'm expecting that we do receive the full 16.4 million throughout the end of this fiscal year. Same with stormwater and solid waste fees. Currently sitting at $18.7 million. They're still remitting us the solid waste and stormwater fees that are due to us. So no fluctuations in those payments, but I think next year that will change on where we're receiving those fees. Pension obligation bonds, we've received 7.1 million. This is another routine transaction that they send to general government to pay off the general obligation bonds or pension obligation bonds. So we're on trend to get the exact amount of $9.5 million, as this is how our debt service schedule is structured. Fleet management and fuel services. Again, this is on trend for what we estimated for a budget, but they are paying routinely on a monthly basis for both services. General insurance is the same, so projecting 2.2 million for the end of the fiscal year. And then finally, we have miscellaneous services. These are just smaller transactions, so I accumulated them into a bucket, accounting for $74,000 for as of June 30th, 2026. We'll note, since GRU is now processing their own payroll, they are now also paying their own unemployment taxes. So with all other payroll taxes they are paying for, but we are receiving any benefit payments that are still due to the city, since they're still part of our health insurance plan and our pension plan. They are routinely sending that to us every pay period before. Next, we have transfers and charges for service that we remit to GRU. There's not too much on this slide, but the IT SLA is on here. I do have the adopted budget on here for 5.9 million, but we have since amended the budget, so it will be $3.7 million for what we do pay for IT services in accordance with the SLA that we have with GRU. So we are on track there. Telephone services also on track. These are desk phone connectivity that we pay our share of. And then stormwater management and solid waste billing services, as GRU still has that on their utility bill. We are still paying the services based on the original MOU that we have with GRU that is set to expire this fiscal year. But we're on track there. And then finally, we have miscellaneous payments of property insurance or surplus or any inventory that we issue between each other of $284,000. So that pretty much wraps what we have in the due to froms or charges for service that we have between each other. But on the next slide, it's gonna be the third slide, but so we have settled the balance between the due to froms. It was $1.1 million. That primarily consisted of the IT services that we paid to GRU. We settled that last Monday, so we're technically current with GRU. Our accounts are in balance. For non-interfund or non-due to from balances that we have for GRU, we have utility expenses, contractual services. These are routine expenses. So far, fiscal year to date, we've paid them $5 million for all of those services. Right-of-way permit fees, those are still outstanding. Those are now at a balance of $355,000. This accounts for this year's right-of-way permit fees and last year permit fees, but none of that has been paid fiscal year to date. I'll be looking to work with the city attorney's office and seeing how we can collect this.
Sorry, so that's FY FY '25 and FY '26.
Yes, the balance has accrued up to $355,000.
Okay, thank you.
In the backup, I have a detail of all transactions between GRU and general government. But it's a lot of detail, but everything is there, including the benefit payments that they're now paying us instead of the payroll reimbursement that we used to process for them. So if you have any questions, I'm available at this time.
Anyone else?
No questions. There's a tremendous amount of transparency about the relationship. I know service level agreements and the IT agreement, various things come up as sort of, I mean, there's, I don't want to call it political, but, you know, like discussion, well, I mean, it is political, but discussions between the two boards, and I think just having everything listed out here, you going over all of it, I think is very helpful for us to get an idea of it and the public to get an idea of it. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to say it is a, as I look at the backup, it is a thorough and incredibly frustrating every time I hear this report. So, thanks.
Yeah, thank you for keeping us up to date on this. I think it's useful for this committee to hear it, and, you know, particularly if there's something that crazy that pops up mid-year while we're busy doing the rest of our work. So thank you for keeping your eyes on this.
You're welcome. I'll be back next quarter to do the same thing.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wren.
Thank you.
All right, this requires no, since this was just an update, it requires no action. Madam Manager, I'm sorry, Madam Clerk.
That's okay. We're on to the, Mr. Chair, we're on to the next business item, and that is the 2026-569 fiscal year 2026 third quarter budget monitoring report projection through September 30th, 2026. The Finance Committee received the fiscal year 2026 third quarter budget monitoring report.
All right. Good afternoon. For the record, Allison Teslia, Director for the Office of Management and Budget. And I'm here to give the quarter three budget monitoring report. Just a brief summary of the report. As Dennis had mentioned, we are projecting to have a deficit in the general fund, which is primarily due to the government services contribution revenue for the countywide streetlights and the attorney fees that are related to House Bill 1645. All the other general fund revenues are coming in consistently with the historical trends. We're currently at about 80.9% of the budget at the end of the third quarter, with property tax collections at about 99%. And then the year-end revenues are projected to be slightly below the budget. On the expenditure side, we're at the end of quarter three, we were at about 68% of the budget. So we're expecting that the year-end expenditures will remain within their allocations. We also included the Ironwood Golf Course financial statements in there, preliminary financial statements. Currently, they are projecting a year-end deficit of about $278,000, which is due to increases for operating and utility costs. And we have park staff here to answer any specific questions you might have about the golf course operations. And then in conclusion, our office will continue to monitor the revenue and expenditure trends as we finish out the remainder of the year, and then we'll be back after the fourth quarter is completed in November.
So I have a question about, so the projected deficit largely due to County Street Lights and GRU legal fees, that, what does that relate to Ironwood? Because we projected a deficit at Ironwood, correct, in our budget, but
Correct.
just not, I can't remember exactly where we started off.
Let's see. I think it's slightly higher.
I remember about 240, but
Hello, Chair, Commission, Board. I'm Roxy Gonzalez, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs. The deficit was initially approximately 200,000 plus, and now I believe it went up to 300,000 plus
roughly 200,000, what we budgeted going into the year.
in the deficit,
In the
projected deficit.
Projected, and now we're at sounding like 278,000 potentially, or is that the 278 where we're at today, or this is through September 30th?
That's through September 30th.
Okay, got it.
Based on where we were at the end of the third quarter.
Okay, and so then this deficit at the end of the year, we don't have contingency this year's budgeted. So it goes to the end of the year, and hopefully there's some extra funds left over at the end of the year. So where are we at on that part?
Well, currently the expenditures overall in the general fund are coming in a little lower than, like typically it would be at about 75%, and it's at about 68%. So we're hoping that there's enough buffer and offset to kind of like stabilize
Where we
those
wouldn't have to go
offsets.
to excess fund balance
That is the goal.
or any other source? Okay. This seems somewhat absorbable, this level.
Well, and also the city manager had implemented somewhat of a spending freeze once we saw where the budget was for fiscal year 2027. So departments have kind of slowed down spending, and like we're not spending like we were before.
Roxy Gonzalez, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs. The deficit is expenditures versus revenue. So under the expenditure line, we should stay within our expenditures. If we go over, the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs takes that under account, and we look at the departmental budget to offset some of those costs.
Okay. All right. Colleagues, do y'all have any other questions about this budget monitoring? Commissioner Eastman?
Well, no, I mean, I'm looking at it. It doesn't look like there's any. Well, what is driving the? It sounds like a lot from 200 to 300, though. It looks like it's sort of marginal things in each area as it relates to Ironwood. I don't see any clear overages within this, but I'd be curious what your thoughts are on what's driving that increased budget deficit.
So the increased budget deficit was a concessions transition.
Okay.
Okay, so initially, with the transition of going to a subcontractor to run the concessions, the idea was that we weren't going to make as much revenue to offset those costs, but we were going to stay within our budget expenditures. So we're not going over budget to utilize revenue to offset those costs. So that was the initial approach to establish the proper services out there at the golf course. Then when the contract fell through, now we're utilizing those expenditures to go ahead and purchase the products, to be able to run the concessions, as well as hiring the staff within the operating cost, the temporary staff within the operating cost to offset those expenditures as well. So that deficit does grow.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. Anything else, colleagues? Mr. Manager, nothing else, and where we're roughly at? Any other thoughts about just kind of where, as we head to the end of the year, like Ms. Cesar was saying to my question about how do we cover this the current gap that's opening up?
Nothing additional, other than what our budget director indicated, with the spending soft freeze and hiring soft freeze,
Got it.
and where we're tracking on different departments and expenditures, we should be okay without going into fund balance across the board.
Great. Good to draw those things together. What we hear about 5-6 weeks ago about that kind of freeze, and then this helps us now. So.
It definitely helps to buffer it.
Right. Okay. And this was just a report, so it does not need action. All right. So thank you, Ms. Hesley. Madam Clerk.
Okay, Mr. Chair, we are on to the next business item. Is 2026-581, fourth budget amendment to the fiscal year 2026 General Government Financial and Operating Plan budget. The Finance Committee reviewed the proposed budget amendment resolution and, if acceptable, recommend that the City Commission adopt and propose resolution.
Okay. So today I'll be going over a high-level overview of the recommendations that were provided by staff for the fourth budget amendment. And then we'll have an opportunity to go over any detailed questions afterwards. As a reminder, the line item detail for all of the budget transactions are included in the amendment in attachment A. They're attached to the resolution. All right, so first we have the authorized position levels. In the budget amendment, we're requesting to unfreeze 2 police service technicians and 1 property specialist. If we unfreeze those positions, they would be converted to ICAC computer forensic examiners and or ICAC police crime analyst positions, which are fully funded through the FDLE ICAC grant. This would result in no net FTE change and would maintain the current authorized position levels at 1,495.75 FTEs for all funds.
And Ms. Tesla, is that grant a one-year grant?
It's a recurring grant.
It's recurring, as long as everyone agrees to it, this is something we get every year?
We get it every year, and it just kind of rolls. There's an actual, as part of the amendment, we are also recognizing revenue and expenditures for the new grant.
Sure, thank you.
So, all right, so next up in the general fund, we're only requesting one adjustment for the fourth budget amendment, and that's a transfer from the Vision Zero project to the Transportation Mobility Program Area Fund. So it could be used as a local match for the Safe Streets and Roads for All Planning Grant Match Program. Next, in the Special Revenue Fund Amendment, it includes adjustments. There's various adjustments. So there's a reallocation within the ARPA housing programs. There's an allocation for the Arts and Public Places Administration Program for materials and supplies, and the installation of public art installation allocations for capital projects. It also includes an allocation of CDBG and CHIP program income to program-related expenses. There's some forfeiture fund allocation updates. It includes shifting funding from the GCRA fund for the new streetery program. There's also multiple police and fire allocations for various programs that they have. And then transportation mobility and adjustments, including new mobility fee revenues for grant match funding.
I'm sorry, did you say ARPA was in here somewhere?
Yes.
Which, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the different housing.
So, let's see the detail. It's reallocating the funding.
Oh, down, okay, I see.
Reallocating the funding from the Affordable Housing Land Acquisition Program to the ARPA Affordable Housing Down Payment Assistance Program.
Okay, I do remember that, because that's roughly two payment assistances, roughly.
Yeah,
Okay,
I believe so.
I think I remember seeing that, okay. And that, because that's something we think we can get accomplished before.
Correct.
before
They're
the
trying
end
to
of-
spend down all the funding before the deadline at the end of the year.
That's right, I do remember this from a bit of an ARPA update.
We don't want to give any money back.
Last week. Okay.
We want to spend it all on programs that we can. All right, so for the special revenue grant funds, it includes the new grant revenues related to the FDLE ICAC program. There's FDOT sidewalk and transit corridor funding. There's various transportation and public safety related grant funding allocations. And it also includes some adjustments for award closeouts. All of the grant adjustments are detailed at the end of the attachment A by grant award and shows you the ins and outs of each one. For the capital project funds amendment, it includes the Ironwood Capital Project Surcharge Program revenue recognition and allocating it to support repairs, maintenance, and the replacement of golf carts. Excuse me. It includes an allocation of fund balance for various wild spaces, public places projects, and various funding reallocations for certain capital projects where a project might have been completed and there's a little bit of budget left over, so we're putting it towards other programs or projects. The fourth amendment for the enterprise fund includes an allocation of funding for contaminated material disposal and tree debris removal in the solid waste enterprise fund, and then an allocation of funding for survey equipment in the stormwater fund. And then in the internal service funds, we have an allocation of funding to cover higher claims and increased stop loss premiums in the employee health and accidental benefits fund. And then adjustments for operating expenses and equipment replacements in the fleet fund. And then that's a high level overview of all of the requests in the fourth budget amendment. We can answer any detailed questions you may have. We also have staff here if there's specific questions.
Can you, I have one quick one about the, for police for rifles. Can someone update me on what we currently have versus, is this mostly replacement or is this kind of newer? I saw Chief here earlier. He was headed upstairs.
He's not here now. I don't have that detail, but we can get it for you.
The 159,000 is on page 4. 159,599 for purchase of rifles. Just whether, so if Mr. Manager, if you could just let us know a little bit about, is it replacement of existing stock? Is this kind of a normal thing, or is this somehow slightly different than what we have been doing recently? So thank you.
That's for the state LACF fund.
Commissioner Eastman.
While we're getting an answer on rifles, I am excited to see we have 322,000 that's moving into the Arts and Public Places Trust. That's an inter-fund balance. I'm curious. I mean, I know that we are actively talking about the Arts and Public Places Trust, but that is currently that's the one that's maxed out. That's the 1% up to a certain cap, right? And 322,000 is a significant amount of money that we'd be able to do a lot of work with. I am excited to see what we can do with Arts and Public Places in the future. If we had gotten through that, we've talked about potentially putting the cap at a different level, having a different percentage within there. And so I guess my question is, the horse sort of out of the barn on these projects and having the set asides on Arts and Public Places, or if we're updating the ordinance, would we be then looking back at future facilities and backdate, or is this sort of what we're going to have for Arts and Public Places within these are our major capital projects basically is located in here. I don't see any other major capital projects that would be susceptible for Arts and Public Places in the future.
On the question on GPD, Chief is on his way
Perfect.
to
Okay.
Chambers to answer that question. On the arts question, on Arts and Public Places, these would be the allocations for these projects because this is what's applicable in the ordinance at this time. I defer to the attorney if we can backdate ordinances, but these budgets are laid out. We would have to find other funding if we were to backdate anything.
I was sort of hopeful to, with the thought that there's going to be a significant amount of money coming into Arts and Public Places in the future, that we would kind of streamline our Arts and Public Places ordinance and potentially figure out if there's more allocation for funding. This is a significant amount of money. As I said, 322,000 is a lot, though. We're also talking about enormous capital projects, right? Probably the bulk of capital projects the city will be doing over the next 10 years is probably located in this, but.
The Arts Trust was off for the summer.
All right, Eddie. I'm not trying to get on you guys. I'm just saying, like, horses are, there are barns and horses are leaving those barns as we speak. So I just, yeah.
We have started that timeline discussion with the Arts Trust, so we can work through that process.
All right, great. And then, I'm comfortable. I mean, I kind of know the answer to this, but all of the unfrozen FTEs, which maybe is more of a police question, chief, but kind of the answer, that's going into ICAC. So like ICAC, it is an annual grant award that comes up, but we almost always get it, right? So it's fairly safe that those are not going to be rolled over into our general fund unless that does not get renewed or something comes up, correct? This doesn't have any general fund impact, any of those frozen FTEs in the police department.
So these are 100% grant funded, and
Right.
I think a discussion if for some reason we did not receive the recurring funding, and I'm going to defer that to Chief when he gets here, but I would think that these are very ICAC specific positions, and a decision would have to be made on how that's handled
Right.
if the funding didn't come through.
Yeah. And then, but the biggest looks like cost change, though this obviously is out of our hands, but risk management, 2.2 million out of fund balance. I don't know if you, let me see, let me pull the exact language up, but it's, 2.65 million allocation of fund balance for employee health and accident benefits for higher and expected claims paid. How much fund balance will we have left at the end? Are we now projecting out?
I know they had enough fund balance. Can you pull that?
Okay,
The
sure.
fund balance for the EHAB? I feel like they had a strong, okay, we'll have to get that information.
Yeah, I know they're strong fund
They
balance.
have a
It's just
strong
something that
fund
we're
balance position.
actually budgeting for, going forward and trying not to get to our maximum thresholds and then our minimum thresholds. And 2.65 is a significant amount coming out of there.
Yeah, so some of the things are out of our control. When the
Right.
premiums come in the middle of the year and you budgeted for a lower amount, you just kind of, I know they shop it and try to get better rates. But it's one of those things where they come in higher than you project and you just kind of have to pay the premiums. And then also the claims are the claims. We don't, I mean, we definitely have programs in the city where we try to, reduce our claims, but it's also one of the things that's kind of out of our control.
For sure. And just highlighting that as we talk about for the future, we're talking about our fund balance and how we do that going forward. I mean, stuff like this happens mid-year all the time, right? I mean, this is a significant amount of money, and just trying to keep those healthy, which we have very healthy fund balance right now. Just that's just a big number that stood out to me. So I figured I'd try to shuffle some time until Chief Moya gets here. He's here.
Chief Moya, if you could.
Welcome.
We had a couple questions. One, maybe the easier one. Here we have $159,000 for rifles, and just can you tell us a little bit about whether is this mostly replacement rifles or is this kind of newer or changing some of the equipment that GPD uses?
So a little bit of both. You all may know that for years we had something called the 1033 program, a program allocated by the federal government to give access to rifles to police agencies throughout the country. It was our desire to sunset that program and give back those weapons because we want to be self-sustained. There is a need for rifles in contemporary policing. The ability for us to have that long-range weapon, sadly, is one that is most certainly in play in today's society. Most of the active shooters, sadly, that have victimized our country use long weapons. We must be able to address those quickly and swiftly. The only way for us to do that is to also be armed accordingly. So the decision was made at my direction to staff all police officers to give them access to rifles. Coincidentally, sadly, an example here on January 14th, when we had a shooting that was officer involved, the use of one rifle on scene was ultimately very helpful to the situation. It is something that I wish that we didn't need, but sadly we must have. Any other questions?
Yeah, I think that kind of,
Well,
clarify for me at least.
Well, I mean, to clarify for that, so we've had rifles in the past that are used. We're now doing more so that there's more access for
That is
officers
correct.
to have them.
We've had those rifles, just not to the numbers that we had. So before, you would have perhaps a couple of rifles per shift. Some shifts didn't have any, right? So you would have police officers that would buy their own, get them approved through our agency because they have to meet certain specs and must be approved, and then carry their own rifles. Well, I don't want people carrying their own equipment either. I want us to be able to provide to our staff any equipment that they may need to do their jobs. So as we sunset the 1033 program, now it gives us the ability to not only give equipment to replace that, but make it available to all first responders.
Right. And I'm guessing there will be training, things like that goes along.
Mandatory.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sure. That was just a
Okay.
clarification. I think that was kind of the direction you're going. Is this a
Yeah.
new program or is this a continuation? And it's kind of a mix of the two.
Little
It's
bit
like
of
a
both,
slight
yes, sir.
expansion of it, but
Yes, sir.
that clarifies it for me.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
did you have further questions, Commissioner Eastman, about positions? You had mentioned something.
Well, no, it was a question I sort of knew the answer to, but because I was asking about frozen positions and FTEs in our as an ongoing thing within our budget. You guys have 3 FTEs that are being unfrozen, but that's all in the ICAC program, right?
Got it.
That is all. It's all grant funded. It's not part of our general fund, and that unless something happens with the ICAC, which I think we've had for many years,
Many years.
that is allocated to within that program.
That is correct. And we believe, based on what the grant is telling us, that funding will be standing indefinitely.
Perfect.
Right. That was it. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, where were we at on, how far down were we?
we were talking about the health insurance fund. And they have a strong fund balance.
Okay.
Even with the amount being taken out of there.
I had one question about that. When we knew about some of those, the premiums kind of mid-year, we knew that when we were budgeting for next year, building our next year's budget, right? Because I remember there was a significant increase.
There's an
so-
increase for next year, yes.
So we knew, when that came in, that helped us guide us into this next year's budget.
It was used for the estimate for next year.
Right. Perfect. Okay. Colleagues, are there any other questions about any bits of this while we have knowledgeable staff in front of us?
And sorry, just forgive me. I'm back on the risk. We did not actually budget the health insurance, or we didn't budget certain insurance in this particular year, and we are budgeting for it next year. Correct?
Okay, so in the general fund, the departments did not budget for their piece of the health insurance.
Right.
Because it's been posted on the back end for the last couple of years.
Right.
Next year, we're including it in their budget on the front end.
Okay.
It's similar to how it's my understanding that overtime used to not be fully included at the front end of the budget, and now we're doing it, so it's like a similar.
And so this is a totally separate thing because this is within risk management.
This is completely
specifically.
separate, yeah.
Right.
But their premiums did go up, so that amount that we're estimating also is higher. Because I think it went up from the estimate for this year to next year was like $1 million.
All right. There's a lot in here, so
know.
give it a look if there's anything else. There's a lot. Most of this we've already largely, we voted on a
Previously.
bunch of these chunks, quad spaces, public places, some of this accepting of grants.
And the agenda items are referenced
Right.
throughout if they were already approved.
So, the only, I guess, one question about on page 9 is about just some of those capital project funds. I guess some of this unused, and this was originally a chunk we had, I think, at the end of FY '24, I believe, as we were looking at several capital improvements across the city. And so these are all things we've accomplished, and these are left over. Are these projects all? There were a lot of, I'll say, smaller maintenance issues.
Correct, Commissioner. They're excess
Go ahead.
funds from completed projects or projects that are nearing the end of completion. When these were approved, they were, very rough estimates, so we're moving money around between those projects for the ones that have gone over those initial estimates and the ones that have come under those initial estimates.
Okay. And we had, in just that general capital projects, that we originally were moving that out of excess fund balance to begin with. That's where we sourced for almost all of these improvements, right?
This is all excess fund balance. Now, for one clarification, the Fire Station 2 project is a new project being funded with excess funds from those completed projects.
Okay. That's kind of what I was looking to kind of hear about, lots of small amounts that we didn't spend, and then this is one of those opportunities to reinvest.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Gail Morey, Public Works Director. And the other project that's new is the Porter's project. So that's a fire alarm replacement that's in as well. It's somewhere in this list.
That's the Porter's Community Center, not
yeah.
the new Porter's
It's-
Pink House.
Yes.
Correct.
Because Porter's Pink House is
Community. Yeah.
CRA.
CRA. Got it. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Mallory. We've been joined by Commissioner Book. Commissioner Book, do you have anything on this fourth budget amendment we've been looking over?
No, sir, thank you. Sorry to interrupt. My other meeting just went long.
Okay, we had some questions through some of this, some of the stuff that was GPD, some unfrozen position is because it specifically comes from the ICAC grant that's a pretty solid, not quite perpetual grant, but we think into the future. That was a question. We had a question about the expense for rifles, since we I had questions about how often we already use them, or was this expansion versus, replacement. So Chief popped in and gave us some answers about that, just to fill in some gaps.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for catching me up.
Yeah, that's what most of our questions were. All right, well, is there any members of the public who would like to speak about this budget item, budget amendment?
Mr. Chair, no comments from the public.
All right, since we will be voting on this, Commissioner Eastman.
Yeah, I'd like to move that the Finance Committee recommend that the City Commission adopt the proposed resolution.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Either conversation about this, colleagues, Commissioner Vogt?
No, sir.
No? All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Teslia. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Chair, we are on to member comments.
Anyone have a comment? Commissioner Eastman? No?
Sorry, but I got nothing for you.
Nothing at all? Anything interesting and fun? I will say the flags are at half staff for Miss Dolly Parton, who passed away yesterday, so it's a very sad day. And Tim Curry today. Ooh. Oh. Bit of trivia, also yesterday is the 25th anniversary of Aaliyah dying in a plane crash, so that's two big music people, same day, August 25th. For those of you old enough to remember, I think everyone in this room. All right, well, with that, our next meeting, at least scheduled at this point, will be November 17th, 2026, unless we have another budget amendment that needs to be done before then. So with that, we're adjourned.